going on, everyone? This is Preheat, and today I'm going to bring you a video about fire mages in 6.2.3. I've been getting a lot of questions from people on my server and guildies alike asking me why I've switched to fire. And since this patch was implemented with item upgrades, fire has become a pretty competitive spec. I like to think it's probably one of the highest DPS specs, if not the highest DPS spec when played properly. But it all comes down to your gear and how you're itemizing your stats. And another big point to also make is the trinkets that play a very essential part in fire's DPS. So let's get right into it. So let's start by addressing some issues and concerns with fire right now. There's a couple of things that people seem to think fire is and fire isn't. And saying fire is a reliable mage spec is an oxymoron to a lot of people. And the reason for that is because fire has never been reliable. It's never been consistent. Fire has always been you either get a huge combustion, your damage is ridiculous, or you get a shitty combustion and your damage is complete crap. And a lot of people see fire mages this way. And the reason I felt so determined to make this video was because fire mages are in a spot where they've never been before. Right now, as a fire mage, you are able to pull consistent DPS on every single attempt of a boss that you engage yourself in. And the reason for that is because of the item level upgrades and what your stats are able to be. And I'm saying that, and there's not much explanation behind it, but basically, it's just the amount of crit and the amount of mastery you're able to obtain with the gear that you have right now gives you a consistent and reliable opener every single time. And the reason behind that is something I'm going to explain in a little bit, but fire mages right now have this bad connotation towards them, and I have a lot of people that are asking me, wow, I'm just lagging out, how is fire able to be consistent? Like, what makes it so that fire is able to be played at a competitive level? So, let's go into a little bit of detail right now. So currently, as you can see on my stats, I'm sitting at 45.86 crit and 49.53% mastery. And those stats are very important right now because of the amount of crit you need to get a reliable opener, like I said. To have a consistent opener as a fire mage in 6.2.3, you need to have 45-ish% crit self-buffed, meaning with food, flask, and arcane brilliance. I mean, flask doesn't really do anything towards your crit, but arcane brilliance and food, you should have 45% crit. Your second best stat being mastery just basically amplifies all of your fire spells. It increases the damage that your ignite does, and it also has a chance for your multi-strikes to also increase their damage, which is very important. So that being said, I'm going to explain to you why these two trinkets are necessary to be pulling good DPS and consistent openers as a fire mage. Sandman's Pouch upgraded to 725 gives you 3080 crit stats, and the Desecrated Shadow Moon Insignia gives you a static mastery, and it also gives you 1800 intellect. So when coupled together, these trinkets have a ridiculous amount of power to give you a very large combustion. And the reason for that is that they work synonymously, or synchronously, excuse me, being that they will proc almost every time at the same time on the opener. So when the trinkets proc on the opener, they activate their ICD, and a minute 30 later, your Desecrated Shadow Moon Insignia will come up before your Shadow Moon's pouch, or your Sandman's pouch, and then they will proc again at the same time. So every single time you need to use your combustion, these trinkets will be up. And you want them to be up, because when your Sandman's pouch procs, you are getting an extra 40% crit, basically. So on the opener, which I'll show you in a second, I'm going to jump from 45% crit to about 80 to 85% crit with my Mark of the Thunderlord on. Which means that against your level 101 Prismatic Crystal, you are going to have basically 100% crit chance. Meaning that every time you cast a Fireball or a Pyroblast with those trinkets up, you will guarantee yourself another Pyroblast cast and a Hot Streak cast. So ideally, when you're doing your opener, you are going to want to cast Fireball coupled with a Pyroblast, then again Fireball coupled with a Pyroblast, and then you're going to spam the rest of your Pyroblasts into your crystal, wait for your Ignite tick to restack, and then you're going to cast Combustion and live Infernal Blast to spread it to the boss and or adds that are around it. So let's go over that right now. I'm going to do my normal opener that I do on every other boss. You pre-pot at 3, cast Pyroblast. Let's assume Lust and Ring are up, which I'm going to proc right now. Living Bomb the boss. As you can see, all of my trinkets have procced. Fireball, you get both your Hot Streak and your Pyroblast. Fireball, weave a Pyroblast. Pyreball, leave a Pyroblast. Pyroblast, Pyroblast, Combustion. And now you have successfully done an opener with your trinkets up. So as you saw, I had 83% crit, which basically guaranteed me a crit every single time on my crystal. And the reason that's important is because now fire mages, where they stand with these stats, have a reliable and consistent opener every single time. If you manage to get your trinkets procced and you do that prismatic crystal rotation properly, you are guaranteeing yourself a strong and stable opener every single time. And that's why these trinkets are so important, because without that crit, I mean, you have Goron Soul Repository from Mythic BRH, but I think it's like a 700 meta level, and it doesn't give you the same amount of crit that this does. Let me just check that right now. Blackrock Foundry. Where is it? Goron Soul Repository. It's 6. Oh, that's heroic. Mythic should be 700. Yeah, it gives you 2652 crit. So, I mean, you're losing out basically on a bunch of crit. It gives you the same amount of static intellect, I mean, minus 11, whatever, but you're missing that extra crit percentage. So, I mean, if you have that trinket and you have the proper gear, which I mean, I mostly do. I'm missing my wrists and my boots, which are not crit gear. If you have that trinket and you're able to get 45% crit self-buffed, and you don't have the Sandman's Pouch, go ahead and use that. You're gonna notice that your crit percentage against your prismatic crystal is gonna be the same, if not a little bit less than mine. But you're guaranteeing yourself 100% crit chance on your prismatic crystal. So, that being said, the gear you want to be itemizing for this fire build is basically, like I said before, crit and mastery. So as you can see, every single piece of gear I have, aside from my wrists and my boots, are crit and mastery, or at least crit and then some other stat. Your best in slot chest is what you're going to be wanting to use. You want to use the 4 set and then the off chest piece. The chest piece comes from Kilrog, I believe, which is the ancient gore stained wrap, and that's crit mastery. And then every other piece is crit mastery, or basically crit something else. So the best in slot staff, Spur of the Great Devourer, your 2 trinkets, your ring, your legendary ring, obviously, and then your 4 set. And yeah, that's pretty much it for gear. For food, you want to be using pickled eel, gives you 125 crit. Intellect flasks, potions, and then your empowered augment rune, or your standard rune that you use. All of these things add little bonuses to your stats, and of course that adds a bigger combustion. But the point of this video I want to get across is that right now fire mages are very competitive. Their DPS is, in my opinion, is very consistent and stable, and with that opener and with those trinkets, you are guaranteeing yourself a good opener every single time. And just an added bonus, fire is the best spec in the game right now for AoE. I mean, on Zool, I'll put a link in the description, but I mean, the opener I got on that pull just proved it to me. Every one of my raid team members are like 740 item level, whatever, and I'm sitting at 732, and I'm still able to pull competitive DPS compared to them. Like, there's times on AoE fights where I'm noticing, like, I'm doing ridiculous damage at my item level, and it's only gonna get better as I go up. I'm still missing like a couple of mythic pieces, so I'm not worried about that. But to me, fire is my favorite spec in the game out of any class. I've been playing for over 7 years now, and I have not found a spec that is more fun than fire for me. So being able to go fire and being able to just basically explain and share why fire is so good right now, it makes me happy, because I mean, the reason I don't like Arcane is because to me it's always felt clunky. Ever since I started playing in Cataclysm, I've just never enjoyed it. And right now the big thing with Arcane is basically your Prophecy of Fear. I mean, I hate to love that trinket, and I love to hate that trinket. When that trinket procs and there's ads around, and you have your crystal down, and you know it procs on the boss, and you're able to cleave off the boss onto the crystal, onto the ads. I mean, the damage is ridiculous. But then again, you're relying on a trinket for your damage output, and I guess in some way you're doing that with this, but it just feels like a proper DPS spec. I do not like Arcane, I do not like Frost, I've never been a fan, but now that you're able to go fire and notice that you have a consistent opener and you're able to pull competitive DPS with it, I just enjoy it a lot more, and I feel like a lot of mages would enjoy it more if they just had the right information. So I'm going to post a link in the description below to direct you to alteredtime.com. There's a subsection in Altered Time about fire mages. There's also subsections about Arcane and Frost, and everything you need about mage info is on that site. So I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. You'll find everything you need there. And if you guys ever have questions about fire, you have questions about mages in general, feel free to hit me up. I'll be happy to help you guys out. I hope this helped, and we'll see you guys soon.